Hey guys, it's Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist. You can find me at attachmenthealinghelp.com. This is the second video on making sense of love within the context of attachment styles. Basically, this is based on Sue Johnson's work, Love Sense. And I'll also have a meditation at the end where perhaps you can feel in to get a better idea of your attachment style. For this video, I'd like to concentrate on separation anxiety. Whether you're avoidant, anxious, or have a mix of the two, each person has a particular way they react when the other person pulls away, when it's perceived. Now, this could happen when someone's actually going on vacation or leaving, but this can happen even when it's just perceived. The other person says, well, I can't come around that day, or they're kind of not paying attention, any kind of perceived separation. And usually it goes down in 4 steps. And this is with children, but this is also with adults. The first step for anything, you make a request, it's not honored. The first step is always anger and protest behavior. Now, if it's a little child, little Sarah, she might make a demand. She's not making a request. Hey, could you do this? No. Especially as a 4-year-old, it's a demand. Don't go away, mommy. Mommy, you come here. Okay. Now, 30 years later, what does that look like if she never heals that or matures developmentally? Well, she would attack her husband, If her husband said, well, this weekend I'm going to visit my family, so on and so forth, this would be not a secure response like, oh, well, when you do that, maybe it makes me a little more anxious, and I just have to let you know, I need you. I feel I need you this weekend for X, Y, and Z. No, this is a criticism and attack, Really? Do you really have to go see your mother? Do you have to? Really? When right now I'm so overwhelmed? Do you see the house? Do you see the kids? Do you have to do that right now? Well, the husband's probably not going to respond very nice to that. But you see, it's anger, It's an attack. And of course, since he's being attacked, he will defend himself. Let's say that doesn't work. He goes, yeah, I got to do that, Step 2 is clinging and seeking, clinging and seeking. So then that little girl, little Sarah, might say, I want to sit in your lap. I want you to pick me up. I don't want to play. And we'll just cling to the mother, because that request was not honored. Now the adult might say something like, oh, listen, I've asked you to be here on the weekends thousands of times, and you're not even listening to me. You say you love me, but you never hold me. I want you to hold me. And then she cries, Perhaps she starts getting emotionally upset, Some people call this manipulative. It's not like we're consciously doing these things, These feelings are coming from other places. Oftentimes this is not conscious, And of course, if at that point she gets a cold response, which is likely, will probably respond cold, oh, well, funny way of showing your love of me. You're always angry at me. And yes, you do ask, but who can listen to you all the time? And so on and so forth. Then she gets miserable. First she's angry, then she's kind of clingy, and now she's kind of depressed, despair. Three. We're on step 3. That's marked always by depression, and despair. With an anxious person, that might be, first stage is protest and some anger, but at this stage, perhaps because the despair and depression is settling in, that can look like 2 different things. That can look like not just anger, but rage. Rage if it's extreme. Like, okay, well, this isn't working out. Threats. I might as well leave. You do whatever you want. You go your mind. I don't know if I'll be here when you get back. Trying to get him to respond. Or some anxious people may just withdraw into a sense of helplessness. And helplessness is really the main symptom of depression. Some would claim with male depression, it's almost always an essential, for both, an essential aspect of depression is helplessness. A wonderful thing you can do is kind of float back to your memories and notice the times when you do feel helpless. Is it around that partner? Is it when something happens? What happens? So on and so forth. If you're at that 3rd stage, this is really a despair and depression. This is when the relationship really starts to kind of come apart. Because if that depression, despair is because of the relationship, you're starting to move into grieving. A part of you is almost letting go already. Oh, fine. You're going, of course you're going to go to your mother's, Just, there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can say. You're not going to listen to me. What can I possibly do? 4th stage, detachment. And in that stage, whether child or adult, they just accept that relationship, even if it's with their own mother or father, even if you're a child, that relationship is just not going to fulfill them. It's not going to fill their longings, So why do it? You keep reaching out. You see it's not going to get fulfilled. Reaching out equals pain. Reaching out equals disappointment. Let it die. And if you're a child, this is kind of the beginnings of avoidant. Avoidant is just, no one's going to be there for me. Why even reach out? I'll just shut down my entire attachment system. Just shut down, And with an adult, you just stop. Now, at that 4th stage, detachment, you're done. Almost no one comes back from detachment, So if I see couples, and I really don't do couples with individuals, but I speak to a lot of couples counselors, and occasionally I do. But in couples, if I see 2 people and they're yelling at each other and very spiteful and angry, that's good. That means there's a chance, there's emotions, they care. But when I get 2 people and there's dead-eyed, and I say, well, what did you want him to do? What did you want her to do? And they just sit there like, well, would have been nice if, she came to my business party, but, I did it. And it's just dead eyes, no emotion, It's dead. Get out. If you're at detachment, you have detached your attachment system from that person. It's not coming back. A lot of marriage therapists are rich on those relationships, giving this false hope. Now, it might not be true detachment. It might just be the beginnings. It might be depression. But that's actually sadness. Detachment is like, yeah, she didn't, and frankly, I just couldn't care. And yeah, so I did it. And those are things, those 4 behaviors. Those are the 4 behaviors that you're going to see when needs aren't met. A secure person will react differently. But if you see in yourself or your partner any of those 4, there's some insecurity happening there. And you can take time and see what stage it's at, Those are the things that are obstacles to secure attachment. Everyone has fights. You ought to. They're not bad. In fact, just today I talked to a woman, not a client, and she was saying I was asking her about a relationship, how's it going? And she's like, well, her big complaint, we never fight. Oh, well, that sounds pretty good. It's like, yeah, and she didn't know why, but it's like, yeah, but there's still, I think we ought to. There's nothing. And the truth is, if he really cared, he would, there would be some, we're human beings. If we're enlightened, no fighting. But since we are human beings, we do care, and we will get triggered, and that's fine. Here's the thing, get triggered, fight. Can you repair? A good relationship doesn't mean no fighting. A good relationship means you fight, but you repair it, and when you repair it, it is better. You are closer. Why? Well, think about it. What if you were really honest, and one party was clingy and the other part was very cold, and then you stop and you just were very honest. You know what? When you say things like that, I will take responsibility, but I just, go cold. I just go cold, Is there another way we can approach this? Because I want to hear you. I want to know what you're going through. But when it comes at me like that, it's not your fault. It's my issues. When it comes to me like that, and I know, this is the magic phrase, of course, I know it was not your intention. As if this person was trying to make you cold, trying to make you angry. I know it wasn't your intention, but when you come at me that way, I just kind of shut down. And then she would say, in a secure relationship, you know what, when all of a sudden, when you leave, maybe if you could give me more time, this, that, the other thing, we work something out. Instead of just telling me you're leaving, you can discuss it with me, so on and so forth. Because when you leave, I all of a sudden start to get anxious and start to reach out and clingy, and I don't want to be like that. I want to be like, oh, well, you just learned something about each other. You were vulnerable. And one person usually is going to take responsibility for that and open up and say, hey, let's put down the sword, open up. And now, thank goodness you had that fight, because now you know something about each other. Now you're actually closer, Relationship is all in the repair. And that's true even with a client and a therapist, or client and a coach, because you're going to misunderstand each other. You're going to say, oh, it's like this, and it's not. Okay, can you be honest? Can you say, hey, to your therapist, I'm talking to you, and you seem to be, where are you? Is that just me, though? And hopefully that therapist would be really honest and either say, no, I was checking the clock, or be like, you're right. My mind was somewhere else, not perfect. I apologize. And that really was not helpful. In friendships, these things will break. These things will break also, or be ruptured. But they can always be repaired as long as it's not at the stage of detachment. Avoidance kind of go to detachment like that, there's not a whole lot of levels, Their protest behavior is like literally grunting, it just goes da-da-da-da-da, 4, boom, detachment. Why? Because it feels very vulnerable to feel anxious. If someone else looks like they might reject you, anxious person will feel it. But that's so huge for an avoidant. They will avoid it, It's too much. No, I can't. I'm not even going to go there. Boom. I'm just going to detach. I'm going to detach before allowing myself to feel that and go through it. That separation distress. And people, they wish to say, oh, how can I just stop it? Oh, you can get better. The triggers can get better. Well, there's techniques. But the separation distress itself will always be there. This is wired into our brains and has been for thousands of years. A loss of contact with a protective figure, an attachment figure, that would mean death. That would mean death. If you're a little child, that parent, boy, if you don't know for a fact that that parent is utterly dedicated and devoted to you, even when you cry, even when you're bad, even when this, you're going to be very anxious. And let's be honest, people did leave their kids, especially in pre-civilization times. But boy, I read a lot of Roman literature, and I read a letter the other day, a couple months ago actually, and it's the Roman soldier writing to his wife saying, hey honey, I'm going to come back from the campaign, love you, been thinking about you every night. By the way, the campaign did not go very well, so if you can take our 3-year-old daughter out, get rid of her. We're just not going to have enough money for food this year, blah, 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 da-da-da-da, love you, thinking about you, boom. Yikes. But there was no welfare state. There was only so much food to go around, and people starved, And that's just biologically in there. One of the best people to read is this guy, Jack, J-A-A-K, Panksepp of Washington State University. Neuroscientist guy. But he does a lot of attachment stuff. And he's actually showed you have specific pathways in your brain that are just used to register what he calls primal panic. That results from the loss, even momentary, of an attachment figure. Even momentary. This is hardwired in your mind just to monitor that figure is there. As I say, for children, that figure has to physically be present to feel okay. When you're adults, more abstract thinking, just knowing and visualizing and thinking of that person will help. Hence, I do things like ideal parent figure protocol, inner child work, and you kind of visualize these things. Now, if two people are just going through a little rough patch, nothing serious, no big deal, there aren't other issues, and this happens, the wife, little Sarah, or adult Sarah, might say something like, well, I know I'm being critical. She'll realize that and feel free to admit it, just feel very honest. And I don't mean to. I know you're under a lot of pressure, but I feel lonely. And I feel scared about us. I'm, very open about your fears. And then would come, express it, a request. I need you to turn to me, even if it's just for a moment, a couple times a day. Just so I know I matter to you. Can you do that? Now, that's a secure protest behavior, but to do that, you cannot be angry. Sarah would have to dampen down her anger. In other words, take a moment, walk it off, take a couple of breaths. If you're into acceptance and commitment therapy or something like that, you kind of just take a moment. You notice the feelings in your body. Oh, I'm angry. Oh yeah, my shoulders are bunching up, my jaw, I'm getting ready. And I'm feeling angry. You notice it, and you kind of allow it to go through your body. And you notice your thoughts. This guy, what is he doing? I can't believe him. But you step away from your thoughts. You just notice these thoughts, and you allow them. Ask yourself, can I allow these thoughts and feelings and sensations to be? Can I just allow them to be? Give them permission. Perhaps the answer is no. Okay? But if it's yes, you allow them to be. And you separate yourself, because those thoughts are just your thoughts. They're not you. It's just a part of you that's feeling that way. Other parts of you do not. When we're in it, it feels like, no, this is me. This is all of me. I'm just angry. And boy, when I cease being angry, I will just disappear. That's not true. To do this, though, to repair relationships, it needs to be a safe haven. And a safe haven has to do more than just simply stop creating distance. That's one step. Okay, things are getting in the way of us, okay, well, maybe my anger is getting in the way. Your coldness is getting in the way. Our inability to really say what we're feeling, to express it. You'd be very surprised how few people can articulate what they're feeling, but also where they're feeling in the body. That's even rarer as we become more disembodied, but also sharing it. Like they know, especially in avoidant, they know what they're feeling. No one else has to know. Why should I admit it? So that's great. Yeah, stop creating distance, but a securely attached dyad, naturally, if you're just naturally secure, you just naturally turn toward each other. You will naturally turn toward each other, just naturally, and reveal your fears and longings. We all have fears and longings, even avoidance. And instead of reaching for a bottle, reaching for the video game, reaching for a hamburger, when that longing comes on, that fear, if you're secure, you reach toward your partner, your intimate partner, Now, that's hard to do if, again, anger, but also if you're ashamed, Why would you feel ashamed? Well, obvious reasons. I don't have to go into it, but I recall a remark by Freud, and he says something like, we are never so vulnerable as when we are in love. If you want to love, you have to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable is very tough. We all have shames, And if you don't understand the intense emotion that love engenders, love will always be scary. Always be scary. If you're an avoidant, you'll be shocked when that strong emotion comes up. Where did this come from? If you don't understand this to begin with, your relationships will probably be a mess because you won't know how to date intentionally. You won't know how to tell if someone is right for you or whatnot. You won't be in touch with your emotions, A bit about emotions. There's a lot of talk against emotions, and I know why they do that. I get it, and there's a lot of truth in that. I'm not a big fan of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I like to work from the bottom up. But even though those things are true, we have discovered so much. The books you read on psychology in the 40s and 50s are very different from what you'll read today about emotions. Emotions are intelligent. I think they're our own form, or maybe even a higher form of intelligence, their own form of intelligence. And what gets us in trouble is not the emotion, it's avoiding the emotion. It's all the thoughts and that come in with trying to avoid the emotion. Emotion actually is a very intelligent force that actually organizes our experiences and truly elevates our life. Emotion is what transforms existence into experience. You ever feel like you're just existing? I'm just getting up. I'm going to the emo. And there's no joy. There's no even anger. There's just nothing. Well, if you come in contact with that, and it's inside you, that feeling of aliveness, that is the only thing that will transfigure an existence into an experience. Emotion is what turns a little memento, a little object into a memento. It could be a stupid little stuffed animal. That's just an object on the shelf. The moment you gift it You grace it. Etymologically, you gift it to someone. You give it to someone. That you intentionally, all of a sudden it becomes something different. It's not just an object. It has a bunch of personal meanings, An event, if it's emotional, will be in the 60s they call it a happening. I'm not that old, but I've seen footage, And emotion is what turns a person, a lot of persons out there, into the love of your life. Love of your life. Your love helps you feel more alive because you're connected. And I know there's so much of this stuff about self-love and just love yourself and self-soothing. And I don't like, so you don't gotta love yourself. You should be curious. Perhaps you can say lovingly curious. You should have self-respect, values, those can help. But as far as self-soothing, I'm sorry to say, there's only so much you can do. Even people who are spiritual use God, prayer, ancestral figure as attachment. That can work, okay, but there is something at least perceived to be there. So spirituality can absolutely be attachment. You need spirituality, though, And if you ask, you need, perhaps 7 things to feel. 7 things help you to feel secure externally. I've been talking about internally. Well, that's just having a partner. Hopefully one you love. All right, no idea why that happens, but I'll give it a thumbs up. Partnership. Damn, yeah, hell yeah. Number 2, friends. Hopefully 5 friends, but at least a friend. A job. Nice if it's a job that you can make progress, but a job, a place in society. It doesn't have to be a high place, but it's I know this is where I am, and I am a ex-school teacher, and I have a social identity. I am part of society. 5, a hobby, something, again, that you can do, take joy in. Be great if other people share this hobby and you had a shared interest. And the last would be spirituality. And some people would even say a sense of privacy. They would add on to that. That's after you get food, shelter, Well, I just named 7 or 8 things. You need 3, perhaps 4, to feel secure. Even if you're very emotionally secure, or boy, if you have no job, no friends, no partner, no way of touching the transcendent, emotionally you might be very secure, but you're also going to be scared to death of dying alone. And and I know so many singles today, and I talk to them, and it's all fun in their 20s. 30s, they sort of get a little nervous. What's going on here? 40s, good Lord, I don't have a 401k. I don't have this. I'm going to end up in some retirement. I don't have children. I don't have a family to take care of me. And all of a sudden, the panic comes in, In women, usually 28 to 30, the biological clock, people say, gets ticking. Well, a lot of the midlife crisis for men is when that starts ticking. Their virility, not me, I'm more virile every day, fierce male virility, but other men, starts to go down, testosterone starts to go down. The girls are no longer looking at them as a mating figure, and and they start looking at that long next 40 years. And I've talked to so many elderly people that are married, and they keep saying the same thing to me. Like, all these young people, they don't think about this, but who's going to take care of them when they get sick? And I have to say, I've done a lot of volunteer work, and I visit these elderly who just had shoulder surgery, and they don't have use of their arm. But guess what? They have nobody. Not a big deal. Try cooking. Try doing the laundry. Try doing that with one arm when you're 70. Oh, it's so tough. It's so sad, So Ed Tronick from the University of Massachusetts, he's a pretty good psychologist. I dig him. He says, like, for humans, the maintenance of emotional balance is dyadic. It's a dyadic, collaborative process. Collaborative. It's not I get my way. It's not you get your way. We collaborate to what's best for me, not what's best for you, what's best for the relationship. And when I do ideal parent figure protocol or guided meditations with a client, it's collaborative. I have my eyes closed. Oh, imagine you're a little child and your mother is hugging you. How does that feel? I don't know how that feels. You're telling me, you're expressing emotions. We're trying to attune to each other, but also a collaborating. I will guide it, but I don't know where to go. You know, and I will try to collaborate with you, you know. Healing only takes place in relationship, you know. In fact, Ed Tronick says, I'll just read this, says like, in fact, the reason that distress in a relationship so often plunges us into inner chaos is because our hearts and brains, and this is true, they're pretty much set up. They're set up this way. You were built this way to use someone else, to use your partners to balance your own distress and fear. You know? That's why you're set up. I feel distress. Your brain is like, look for the figure. Okay. What if you do have a partner and that partner is the sense of distress? All of a sudden now you're bereft of help and you're vulnerable. That's what happens to the avoidant. So you can have, you know, anxious or avoidant. Some people have both in one, and we call those like disorganized or fearful avoidant. Primarily, that's when the attachment figure, at least one, is experienced as a source of terror. Oh, how? Well, imagine you call out for mom, dad, whoever, and they come and they are super anxious. And oh Lord, it is terrifying because they're terrified. And instead of getting soothing, you get fear. The thing you love is also the thing you fear. Well, you will spend the rest of your life trying to push the person away, and then when they get too far, pull them in. Neediness, anxious attachment. Too close, avoidant attachment. And that will just be your life. Because the thing you love is also the thing you fear. You know. So how does that look for a disorganized person in this our scenario? Well, that might be like the husband in our scenario reacts like you know, like or maybe little big Sarah, you know, hey, you know, where are you gonna visit your parent? Yeah, I'm gonna go visit mom. Like, oh, how could you do this to me? Of all people, my own partner, you know, the one I count on. I'm so confused. If I can't trust you, who can I trust? I can't trust anyone. I thought you had my back. You were my safe place. And now you're my enemy. And there's no safety anywhere. That's the attitude. Probably they're not so aware. Rarely are we. But that's the attitude. Confusion. Disorganized person is usually confused. They usually are like, your love object is also your enemy, you know? I don't think people realize how important a partner is. I read a study, I mentioned this, that, you know, married people, what's better, to be married, or if you have cancer, or to be single and get chemo. Married with no chemo, single with chemo. It's better to be married. Being married is better. It's extraordinary. Jim Crone did these fascinating experiments at Virginia. A great guy when it comes to neuroscience, really creative guy. So what he did was he put all these women, married women, in an MRI machine, right? And he would flash X's and circles on a screen, right? But he'd tell them, you know, when you see an X, soon as you see that X, there's a 20% chance you're going to get a shock, which they did. 20% chance. It's a little anxiety producing, isn't it? The shock would be on their ankles. And then he would ask them to rate the shock, how painful, so on and so forth. The twist, well, they put these married women, they did the experiment 3 times with each woman. Once alone, once with a stranger holding their hands that they couldn't see, and once with their husbands. These are happily married women. Okay, so what happened? Well, when they were all alone and an X popped in their face, even before the shock, their brains just lit up like a Christmas tree. Alarm, 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 just seeing the X. And when they rated the shock on their ankle, how painful it was, very painful. Moderate, insignificant, very, very, very painful. They did the same thing, this time with a stranger holding their hands. The exact same shock. And when the stranger grasped their hands, their brains reacted with significantly less alarm. So their brain's like, this is I seen X. Maybe shock's coming, but it wasn't panicking. Fascinating. And also, when they would rate the pain would be much less. Isn't that? But isolation alone is traumatizing. It's just traumatizing. If you can't get a friend, get a therapist, get a coach, get someone, join a group, meetup.com. That alone will do more for your attachment problems than anything else. Just having something, being around people. Isolation actually exasperates your perception to threats. So in avoidance sees someone getting close and they feel threatened. Well, what's so threatening about that? But they live in isolation. And believe me, I have friends who are just utterly isolated, and they go into the hospital for 3 days, and they are panicked. And yet their married people go in, and they say, well, yeah, I'm really nervous. And they say really, but nothing like, they're not nearly as panicked, And with pain, this has been borne out. Fascinating. I once read a book about doctors went to India after the earthquakes, and they set up in the gymnasiums hospital beds, and the American doctors were disgusted by these Indians. They walked in, and they would have the beds, and these people had their families living there. They had the mother, their mother and father would be living under the bed. They'd have sheets on top where their brothers or sisters would go on, and they were just, these American doctors, how dare they? But they treated them. There's only so much room. And yet, they're using almost half the amount of painkillers that they do with their Americans. And in fact, when it comes to addiction, and this is so fascinating, probably as you know, you can give someone morphine, be on it every day, relatively high dose for 4 months, take them off, no withdrawal symptoms. Another person, you can't just take them off. They will start shaking, sweating, throwing up. Well, this is physiological. What could the difference be? Chasing the Scream's a great book on this. The difference is that those ones who went into withdrawal had nobody, or very, very thin relationships. And the people that experienced no withdrawal, they had a lot of people. Even the physical pain is much greater. Now, what's really interesting, though, is when their husbands grip their hands, their brain barely even registered a threat. They know, they just been through it twice. Not only are they ready to feel a shock, they're ready to feel a painful shock because the first time it was awfully painful. And even with anticipating that, their brains barely lit up when they saw that X. And when they were shocked, they actually said it wasn't painful. On a scale of 1 to 10, no, it was uncomfortable. It went from very painful to simply uncomfortable. And that's the power of love. That's love in action. Love offers us that safe haven, a place to calm our fears, calm our terrors, to find some equilibrium. You know. Sue Johnson, and this is all in her book, also did this test. Only what she did was she took couples who, her own people who she was seeing, she does emotionally focused therapy. She took couples who they were seeing, and she did the same experiment before therapy. They go, oh, before we start, would you be willing to try this? And they said, okay, yeah, sure. And before they did it, even with their husband holding their hands, these women, their brains still lit up with pain and alarm. More than a stranger sometimes. The holding the hand had little to no effect. Well, that marriage did not feel safe to her. After they did take the therapy, their prefrontal cortex, where the emotions are regulated and controlled, didn't even blip. They acted just like the happily married women. Can you believe that, just in a few, like a year of therapy, I know it sounds like a lot, but a year of therapy, you can move into kind of security that even your perception of pain changes. The way you feel pain, fascinating, So what is learning to love? Well, from this study, I think learning to love is, and to be loved, is, in effect, learning to tune our emotions, being attuned to our own emotions, knowing what we're feeling. That's the essential in order to express what we need from the partner, expressing those needs openly, those desires really openly, in a way that evokes sympathy and support. So there's three things. You got to know your own emotions. Okay, learning to love and be loved. You got to be in contact with your own emotion. You have to be able to know what you need from a partner. I'm feeling like, what do I do? Well, I'm feeling like, can you hold me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And being able to express that in a way that evokes sympathy, not like, like you're so selfish, you're sitting there watching TV, you're sitting there, meanwhile, I just came home from work and I'm exhausted, and you don't even do this, and you don't even do. Well, that is indeed trying to get some support. Probably not going, that's not going to be, it's not going to evoke sympathy though, put it that way. And that's why, when people talk about attachment problems, they come to see me. Oh, I would love to be one of those people who say, hey, come to me for 6 months and I will fix you. Well, first of all, I don't believe that, but that's only one part, regardless, the inner security. What are the others? Well, you need inner security, or at least moving towards it, right? Okay, mystery. I have no idea what that means, but I'll take it. Why not? Let's celebrate me. Let's celebrate security, everyone. Yeah, why not? You need to know, you need to be inner secure. 2, you need to know how to intentionally date if you're not in a relationship, or else forget it. I mean, come on, boomers invented dating. Hey, since the late 40s, I will run into a random stranger and just hope it works out. No, that's not going to work. No. 3, you have to know how to talk to each other. No one taught me how to ask for needs. No one taught me how to set a boundary. I had to learn. And 4, you need other support systems. If it's just you and your partner, you will devour each other. It'll be too much. If you're their all, if they lost you, they die. Ooh, that's a lot of pressure, So you need to have other sources of security, and that can be from internal, purpose, a job, other friends and family. You need others besides a partner. And when I work with people, I mention if they'd like to. I go, boy, I would take a year out and work on ourselves. But while we do that, do you got any friends? How many? What do you do for fun? What is your hobby, your interests? Well, let's work on those at the same time. Let's be very wholesome about it, because when you are feeling ready to jump into dating, you want all that in place already. If you don't have it, boy, now's the time to work on it, you know. So learn to be loved and to love is about learning to tune into our emotions so that we know what we need from a partner, and then expressing those desires openly in a way that evokes sympathy and support from him or her. That's essentially, Sue Johnson will essentially, and she did 40 years of research on this, and that's more or less her conclusions, you know. And when this support helps us balance our emotions, we can stay in touch with those emotions without being flooded by them, you know? A lot of times we're afraid to tune into these emotions because it's like, oh, what if I get in contact with this rage, with this sorrow, with this despair? Will I ever stop crying? There's so much inside. But when you feel secure, yeah, now I can face that. I can do that. There's a lot of talk about dependence and codependency. Codependency is a real thing, okay? But I do wonder if as Americans we're much too individualistic about it. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, would say what you're looking for is being effectively dependent. Effectively dependent on them. And that means we can make a call to others and we can respond to their call in a way that makes our connection with them stronger. That's being effectively dependent. You're very comfortable calling to others, responding to their call, and when that happens, the connection is stronger. Once that happens, you get that, well then you feel balanced and you can move to the world, and you can move in the world with flexibility. You can be open and creative. You can look to make choices that are available. When the mind is calm, the mind is open, creative, sees solutions and potentials. But when you're nervous all the time, you're walking out and you're self-conscious and people are looking at me and I don't even feel right, and you know, and there's no one for you when you get home, and geez, well, an anxious mind, an angry mind, a cold mind simply will not be creative, compassionate, or confident in the world. You see little kids, they go out, they play, and then when they get too dysregulated, they run back to mom, and sometimes they just touch mom, put their head, hey mom, then they go back into the world. We're the same way. So I'd like to take 3 experiments, and we can do this as a meditation. If you don't wish to, you can just listen to me and think about it. And these 3 experiments will be to see where you are in your attachment. And I would like to begin with just a quick body scan, you know? And so I'll do a body scan, and I'll ask you can close your eyes, leave them open halfway, but let's do a body scan, and then I'll kind of guide you, you know? Okay, so I'd invite you to get into the meditative posture, you know, at the back, straight but loose, shoulders back and down, feet firmly on the ground, pushing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, chin tucked in. Okay. Now I would just invite you to take a few deep breaths. And you can kind of just start bringing the mind into the body. bringing the mind in and down. And we could just do a quick body scan. And I would invite you, when you scan, to find a place in your body that feels very safe and gentle. So I would invite you to do a body scan right now, just scanning the whole body from the crown of the head all the way down to the soles of the feet, all the way back up to the crown of the head, back down to the soles of the feet. And you can look for a place in your body that feels particularly secure, perhaps relaxed, calm, your own personal sanctuary. And I don't know where that will be. It could be your hands. It could be your shins, shoulders. But just do a quick body scan. Find that place somewhere that's relaxed or at least neutral. And some people tell me when they find that place, there is a warmth. Other people tell me it's a tingling somewhere in the body. But I would invite you to focus just on that part of the body, and you can even get a little closer, even closer. And you can get so close, it's almost like you move into that place and you become this feeling. And I don't know if you'll experience this feeling of calm and relaxation in the future. But right now, I would just invite you to live there, your own personal sanctuary, right in your body. Yeah, great. Now, I would invite you to go back to the time when you were growing up, perhaps before the age of 10. Who is the main person you would go for to comfort? The main person you go for comfort. Who comes up for you? Who comes up when I say that? Perhaps a mother, father, grandmother, I don't know. The main person you would go for comfort. Who offered you a secure base from which you could go out and explore? Visualize that person, and more than seeing that person, perhaps you can feel and sense that person. Perhaps you sense their warmth, their strength, reliability, and you can just feel into that. Take a moment, feeling the presence of that person. Yeah, great. Now, what was the most important thing this person gave you or taught you? What comes up when I say that? What's the most important thing this person taught you or gave you? Allow the mind to give an answer. Perhaps it's a feeling, a sense of value, a way of looking at the world, a way of being. What was it? Now, imagine you did not have this kind of relationship. That person never existed. How would you have coped? How would you have coped? And if you don't have anyone who can really fit that, just see how you did cope without that person. Just say, okay, boy, I did not have a secure base to reach out. I had to soothe myself by these means and see that. Great. Now go back to that person. Go back to that person because you did have that person. And if you didn't, just see how you do. Cope. Now, that relationship with that person. Do you have that kind of relationship now as an adult? How is it the same or different? If you got a feeling of warmth, perhaps a feeling of being known and seen, perhaps a feeling of being supported or delighted in as a child with that figure. Do you get those feelings with your present partner? Feel into your present partner, if you have one, and compare the two. Now I'd like to give 3 statements, and you can see which one best describes you, feeling into these emotions. The first statement, do you feel right now, thinking about that person, do you feel secure? Can you say this sentence? Say this sentence and see if it feels true. I find it, relatively easy to get close to others, and I am comfortable depending on them, and I am comfortable having them depend on me. I find it easy to get close to others. I'm comfortable depending on them. I'm comfortable having them depend on me. Does that feel true? How about, I don't worry about being abandoned or about someone getting too close to me. Okay, here's the next, the anxious. How about this if you said this to yourself? I find that others are reluctant to get as close to me as I would like to get to them. I often wonder that my partner even really loves me, or that they won't stay with me. I want to get so close, and this scares people away. Was that true for you as a child? Is it true for you now? If you're not in a relationship, think of one you were in, perhaps the most recent. Try that on. And the third, the avoidant. I am uncomfortable being close to others. I find it hard to trust them, difficult to allow myself to depend on them. Often a lot of other people, these others, they want me to be more intimate, but I'm not comfortable. I'm nervous even when anyone tries to get too close. Were you like that as a kid? Okay. Let that fade. Experiment 2. Think of your partner right now. And if you don't have one, the one you'd like to have, or no, the one most recent, perhaps, or the one that you have the most closeness to, the past boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And if you're married or seeing someone, use them. Think of this partner. Okay. See them. Feel into them. The way they hold themselves. The smell. Their tone of voice. See their face. Feel into their presence. Now, think of one thing your partner does that makes you feel precious, that makes you feel loved. Yeah. Pick one thing that's particularly precious and loving that they do. Okay. Now, how do you reciprocate? How do you reciprocate that? What do you do to make him or her feel the same way? What do you do? Think of that right now. Yeah. Do you know specifically, not in general, do you know specifically what makes your partner feel loved? Do you know specifically what it is that makes them feel precious? And if not, can you ask them? Imagine asking them, hey, when do you feel most loved? When do you feel that way? Or does the thought of asking them fill you with anxiety, dread? Check in on that. Check in what feelings, what thoughts are coming up for you. Take a moment. Great. And now let that scene fade. Last experiment, experiment number 3. When you face a reoccurring event that makes you anxious, so this could be going on a plane, or boy, every Friday work has this meeting, or going to a certain family dinner, whatever. Some recurring event that makes you anxious, giving a speech, being evaluated. Imagine that now, please. Imagine that, and you're feeling anxious. You're feeling anxious. Notice that. Which loved one from the past pops up in your mind? From your past. An ex, a parent, mentor, old teacher, a religious figure. Think about that event, showing up and the anxiety. Who pops up? Who's the first person? Now, imagine this person, not just their image, but feel into them. Hear their words or her words. Can you remember some soothing words? maybe in the past you went through something and they came and they said some soothing things. For example, one client told me they popped up in their mind going to the dentist. And as a child, they remember, this woman said she remembered her dad always telling me, "You're strong, you can do it, I believe in you." And hearing not just those words, but the tone of his voice, the loving care and the way he said them, the way he looked at her with such tenderness. And devotion in his eyes. Instantly, she would calm down. Picture this person. Now, in this memory of this person calming you, hearing their words, can you use this memory to calm yourself? Regain your emotional equilibrium. Can you deeply embed this feeling this soothing and calm in the body? Deeply embedded in the body. And I would suggest those emotions of calm are always there. And you can call them up anytime by simply remembering this memory. And the emotions can be there too. Yeah. And now I'll count down 5 to 1. When I reach 1, you'll be back in the room, but with all those feelings of calm deeply embedded in the body, because the body remembers. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back in the now, in the present, here, safe. So I appreciate you guys kind of listening to me. If you need help, attachmenthealing.com, attachmenthealinghelp.com. And any comments, feel free to email me. Any suggestions for future videos. This is part 2. I'll probably have like 7 or 8 of these just on love. Because Sue Johnson's work is wonderful and I'd like to share it. Thanks for watching.